All right. Good morning. As we were saying at Dreamforce, San Francisco. Hopefully you aren't in San Francisco. Otherwise, if you are, awesome. Thank you so much for being here because it's about 7:03 in the morning. And welcome to today's webinar, where we're going to focus on Q3 highlights. So before we get started, we're going to definitely have some Q&A at the end. So feel free during today's webinar to chat all your questions. We will definitely get to them at the end. But if it's top of mind, don't be afraid to chat it sooner versus later, and we will get to them. We will be sending a recording to folks. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. So just a quick level set of what we're talking about today. So we're going to introduce ourselves, and hopefully it'll be more than the better first impression that I gave you about singing in the morning. We're going to do a quick little recap on Dreamforce for those of you that maybe were able to be there, those that didn't get a chance. And then again, why we're here probably is the Winter 24 release highlights. We're really excited about some cool highlights and features that we see will be beneficial to all the folks within the ecosystem. We've got some announcements and then of course some Q&A. So without further ado, just a quick intro. I'll kick it off. So my name is Kirsten Schlau. I lead the Marketing Cloud practice here at Sercante, and really happy to have you all here. Next up, Erin Duncan.
Hey everyone, I'm Erin. I lead the account engagement, or formerly Pardot, practice here at Sercante.
And our favorite Canadian.
Hey, hi everyone, I'm Heather Rinke. I lead our Salesforce core practice at Sercante.
Thank you both so much. They have a lot more to offer than just their title, but you'll hopefully see that. You will see that as we dive into today's learnings and highlights. So recap of what we did at Dreamforce, where we were, where Sercante was. In case you missed it, we did put together the Home for Marketers. The intent of this and really the reason we started this for our third year of having a presence at Dreamforce is really around helping marketers find their people in a sea of millions, especially when it comes to Dreamforce. It's not just connections where there's a really marketing focus, it's all of the people. And so we wanted to go ahead and offer that again this year. We had a ton of meetups. This wouldn't have been possible without our sponsors. And hopefully, as you can see from these smiling faces, you had a lot of fun if you were there. We had a ton of meetups as well as events, I think, every night. And so just to give a little bit of highlights of what that looked like, we had the opportunity for 5 of our Sercante dragons. In case you don't know, a Sercante employee member is a dragon. And so 5 from our herd had the opportunity to present at Dreamforce, which is an awesome honor. We had over 4,000 marketers stop by our space throughout the week, which was at the Pink Elephant. And then, of course, we had a bunch of our Sercante contingent, about 20 people from our team, 6 of them being marketing champions that also attended. So just wanted to give a shout out to those that were involved. And then, of course, hopefully some of you on this call today were able to attend. If not, feel free to use this as a case to attend Dreamforce next year. And yes, it's all about networking. It's all about the meetups and, maybe the occasional party, but also wanted to just share some high level takeaways. We had a few different panels. And so these 2 panels were, I think, beneficial to a lot of folks. So one was on event marketing and what that is involved. And so we just have some quick takeaways here around, really thinking about each persona to make sure that your experiences are meaningful. And if you want to learn more about that, we've got a link to the spot that we'll be sending out afterwards. And then also from the higher education panel, data silos, are still a challenge. I think that probably extends beyond just higher education, but definitely something that they really chatted through there. And more details that you can get on the spot, which is our thought leadership blog. And as mentioned, one of our highlights at Dreamforce this year for Sercante was the opportunity to have many dragons present and really spread the good vibes that Sercante is known for. And so these are just some high level quotes from folks' sessions. We are graced with Heather's presence today. So she was one of the folks on stage with Ruth from Salesforce talking about the Marketing Cloud release. So you might have heard it first from her. You're going to hear it again today. And then, of course, wrapping it up, just last but not least, we really want to thank all of the champions and trailblazers that really helped spread the word for the Home for Marketers this year, especially those that contributed to the Road for Dreamforce video series. So feel free to reference dreamforce.sercante.com to review, next year and start planning your trips. Hopefully we will see you in person again next year. All right. So why we're real here. So thanks for going on that, what I want to say, back in time journey a couple weeks ago from Dreamforce. We're going to really now focus on Winter 24 release and really focusing on, the top 3 to 4 takeaways. If you haven't seen the release notes, you know that they're long. There's a ton there, but we really wanted to curate the ones that are the most meaningful or the ones that we're most excited about. And so we're going to start with Sales Cloud. So over to you, Heather Rinke.
Thanks, Kirsten. Yeah, and to Kirsten's point, the release notes tend to have so many updates in them that there are more than you want to count in a webinar. But we tried to curate as the top things that we thought would be most impactful. I had a hard time choosing, to be honest, but I tried to choose the ones that are that seem to be the most community driven and I think could be the most impactful for folks. So I'm focusing on Salesforce Core. So first category, I guess, is under user experience. So update from this Winter 24, we've seen dynamic forms. And if you're not familiar with dynamic forms, it's a capability that sort of stretches out extends page layouts that allow you to have more dynamic way to be able to show your fields on a record page so that it's a little bit more relevant for the user. They've been rolling out dynamic forms on objects over the last few releases, but as of this release, they've announced that they're now available for most standard objects on desktop and mobile. So I think mobile is one of the key takeaways from this release, but also some of the additional standard objects making them available. Unfortunately, there are a few standard objects that are not quite that were dynamic forms is not available just yet. Campaigns, tasks, and products. But they have said that this is something that's on the radar, but no word yet on when that's coming. Next is quick actions on related lists. So being able to create custom actions, create or update actions on a related list so that you can do mass functions on those related lists. So that just extends some capability there on the record pages. And I should say these two combined were both on the idea exchange. That was sort of what I saw a lot on the release notes is addressing idea exchange ideas. And these totaled about 43,000 votes. So that's pretty cool that they're delivering those. Next page. Thank you. So next category is on flow. So I have a few updates on flows that I thought were something very interesting, and I think are gonna be very useful once they're rolled out. So the first is reactivity on screen flows. So this kind of actually overlaps with user experience because I think this is going to open up some capabilities to typical screen flows to allow for more focused or more streamlined user experiences that don't require a lot of screens to be able to do it. So everything is a lot more interactive. So there's a number of different features under the reactivity umbrella that are available as of Winter 24. Some are GA, and there's now the introduction of reactive display text components. that is in beta as of this year, or as of this release. So it's something that you'll be able to turn on and opt into in process automation settings to take advantage of it. And these were also, I think they're saying they are going to be providing some more reactive components as well in coming releases. So that'll be fun to watch. Another big one, this was another idea exchange idea, is the ability to create custom error messages in record triggered flow. So this was about, I want to say about 19 to 20,000 votes on the idea exchange. So this allows now when you're creating flows to be able to customize what that error message looks like if something should go wrong. So it just allows for a lot more elegant handling of error messages. So you don't see an error that pops up on screen that is hard to interpret. So it actually, you can add one or more custom messages to appear to the user either as a pop-up window or inline on specific fields. Also lets you utilize specific resources or fields, merge fields, or global variables in those error messages. So they're a little bit more relevant, or I should say a lot more relevant to the user should they encounter an error in your record triggered flow. Okay, next slide. I think this is my final flow update slide, but like I said, there's so many good things in here. But a couple of things to call out is just extending beyond flow and beyond platform. So data cloud integration, there was a couple of features that are coming out. First, to be able to have record triggered flows come from data cloud, or I should say data cloud trigger flows. And then also being able to access those data cloud records from Flow in order to be able to use them in your processes. Over previous releases, there was the ability to get data, use Flow using an HTTP callout element in order to get data from external systems. And now we're seeing the ability to be able to write that data to those systems as well. And then also a new element available in beta is the ability to take that and transform data in Flow. So you can see on the screenshot, the last screenshot there, the ability to actually map data from one object to another, and including formulas. So you're actually transforming it as you're mapping it, which I think is going to be pretty powerful. You can use this for between objects on the Salesforce platform, but then also between Salesforce and external object or external data sources as well. So I think this is going to be very useful and be very interesting to play around with that a little bit more. And then we also have permissions and record access. So this is more from an administrative perspective. It's been a bit of a challenge to try and actually view permissions. So when you're looking at a permission set, getting an idea of what the permission set actually contains as far as permissions. So now they've introduced an action that you're going to see, a button that's going to actually appear on the permission set that allows you to in one page view everything that's included in that permission set. So it allows for a little bit more administrative visibility for actually measuring, viewing what that permission set's all about. Then we also have some report types that are going to be available that I think are going to be able to help just from a management perspective to see who has what permissions. So being able to see custom permission set and permission set group assignments, who has access to accounts through different sharing methods through manual shares and teams, and then also public group members. And then something that was announced that came up sort of under the radar, but was kind of surprised folks. They had released it they announced it during Release Readiness Live, was the ability to do a select all on field level security on permission sets. So if anybody has had to do enable field level security for a permission set or profile across a number of fields at one time, you'll know that this will be a huge time saver instead of clicking every box. It's a small update, but it's huge in terms of time saving. So that's why I thought I'd mention it. All right, and then upcoming releases. These are things that were talked about at Dreamforce that I think are sort of a pattern on what we're going to see. There was a lot of discussion on AI and Einstein. One being Einstein 1, which is the rebrand of the platform. basically to represent a lot of the changes that they've made under the hood on the core platform. They've rewrote a lot of the metadata layer in order to be able to support products coming on platform like commerce and marketing, which I think my colleagues are going to talk about. And then also to be able to support that AI capability and the amount of data that is going to be accommodating. So I think this is going to pave the way for a lot of new features. And some of the things that have come up are Einstein for Flow and Copilot Studio and Prompt Builder. Those are going into pilot in this quarter and will be coming out in early next year. And then, which is going, and if you haven't heard, Copilot is sort of like a GPT assistant that will be available on different clouds, including sales and service, that through guided prompts is going to be able to provide customized capabilities. That some of the things that they demoed were things like providing customer insights and overviews, call summaries and chat transcripts, chat reply recommendations. So there was a lot of different things that are going to be available. So Copilot Studio and Prompt Builder are sort of that underlaying layer that allow you to tailor the prompts and how that Copilot is going to operate in your org. So you can ground it and have it really more relevant for your org. And it's sort of embodying a lot of the principles that Salesforce was discussing during Dreamforce, like, trust and that reliability. So I think these are going to be some very cool features to keep. So I would encourage you to keep an eye out for it. And also, even on Salesforce Plus, there are a lot of the keynotes that are available. So I would encourage you, if you haven't checked them out, to take a look at those. That's all for me. I think, Erin, you're up next.
All right. So yeah, let's dive into some upcoming new releases for account engagement. The one I am most excited about, and I feel like a lot of account engagement users are going to feel me on this, is Engagement Studio Program Wait Steps Less Than 1 Day. So this is something that's been in the idea exchange for a while. A lot of users have upvoted it. So it really, to me, shows, we need to continue to put ideas in the idea exchange and upvote them, because Salesforce does look at those and puts things in the tool based on what people really want. So this is one. Before this release, your Engagement Studio program wait steps were limited to 1 day or more. With this release, you're going to be able to do between 2 and 8 hours. So a really good use case for this is, say a new lead comes in and you want to follow up within 1 day, but you need to leave a couple hours for some processes to run, make sure, that lead gets assigned. Maybe some data is appended to that new lead, so you can really customize that follow-up. The wait step of a couple hours is definitely going to allow you to do that. So this is a very exciting one. The next new release, another thing I'm super excited about, pushing from sandbox to production. So this will allow you to build certain assets in your account engagement sandbox and then push them to production. It's not going to be exactly the same as what you see with Salesforce with change sets. It's going to be a little bit different. It's going to go through a flow where you'll select the assets that you want to push to production. But it's definitely going to allow us to do more testing in sandboxes, fine-tune things in sandboxes, and then push to production when it's ready. So that way, you're not dealing with a bunch of test records in your account engagement org, or maybe versions of assets that have been fine-tuned since they were originally built. Another flow feature that is out now is copy assets to additional business units. I have written a blog post about this and all the considerations you should know. So if you have multiple business units and you want to try this out, I definitely recommend reading that blog post. But this flow will essentially allow you to select certain assets from one business unit and copy essentially a shell of that asset into a new business unit. So if you're copying an Engagement Studio program, it's going to give you your whole structure and your logic frame, but then you would need to go in and put, the individual email templates and stuff like that in there. It's also going to allow you to copy custom fields between business units. So if you have an existing business unit that is running great and you just kind of need to create a new one that is very similar to your original business unit, instead of manually creating all those custom fields, you can now use the flow to populate that new business unit with your custom fields. On top of that, we're getting a couple features that give us more view and control over prospect records. That includes restoring paused prospects. So a couple of releases ago, a new feature came out where if a prospect is super active and could possibly be a bot, the system will automatically pause them. So you're not getting all of that kind of junky activity history in your org, but you can now review those paused prospects. And if you believe that they're a true prospect and they shouldn't be paused, you can unpause them. On top of that, you can delete unconverted visitor activity records to kind of clean up your account engagement org and get rid of data that you're just never going to use. And you can also view what automations are making changes to your prospects on a regular basis or a daily basis through the account engagement optimizer. It's getting a new view called the change monitor histogram. And two more winter releases. So we're now going to be able to restrict where we can iframe things. So you can either restrict which domains you can have iframes on or restrict iframing altogether. This is going to be a really good feature for admins, especially if you're managing multiple business units. That way you can restrict, assets from this business unit can only be iframed on this domain. That way, there's no cross use of assets where people are maybe feeding into the wrong business unit. You can just kind of ensure everything is used correctly. Or if you don't want to use iframing at all, you can just turn that option off so users don't accidentally use it, not knowing that that's not how you want things done. And then finally, prevent email sending from invalid senders. So also a couple of releases ago, some domain restrictions were added to account engagement to ensure that you're only sending from your validated domains, and this really helps protect your deliverability. So now you can actually pull a report of which email templates have invalid or unverified senders set as the sender. So you can quickly go in and update that sender and make sure those emails can continue to send, especially if they're autoresponders where maybe you haven't looked at them in a while. And then on the last slide, these are two new features that I learned are coming up while I was at Dreamforce. These are not part of the winter release, but I wanted to go ahead and tell everyone about it so you guys can get excited. The lightning builders are getting some new features. So the next two releases after winter should include some lightning builder features. I know I've gotten some questions on what's happening with the lightning builders. Are they going to keep growing? And I definitely found out at Dreamforce, I talked to the product director that yes, those are getting some new bells and whistles in the next two releases. I can't really get into the details of what should be in that, but I can tell you from what I learned, I'm very excited to see what's next for the lightning builders. And then finally, this is another thing that was in the idea exchange. Salesforce updated the idea exchange to send operational emails from Engagement Studio programs to confirm that this is something being built. So no word on how long this will take or when the release date is, but Salesforce did confirm that sending operational, or also known as transactional emails from an Engagement Studio program is coming somewhere in the near future. So I'm also very excited about that.
Well, thank you so much, both Heather and Aaron, for those awesome highlights. We're going to switch on over. I don't think they say save the best for last, but I will say it for today. No, but in all seriousness, thank you guys so much. So diving into Marketing Cloud engagement, one of the key things that we saw at Dreamforce that Heather mentioned earlier is all around Einstein generative AI. That was a big thing coming out of Dreamforce, specifically relating to content creation and subject line using the generative AI. We all know that sometimes as marketers, having the ability to quickly create content, or maybe you have a writer's block, being able to have someone do some of the thinking for you is super helpful. I myself have used, Chat GPT when I'm trying to maybe send an email, a follow-up, so on and so forth. And my brain power is just not making it for that day. And so these are some awesome features that are now available. Of course, right? Like we all talk about, AI is great, but it still requires a human. So don't worry, don't freak out. The robots are not coming and taking over. I keep thinking of that Will Smith movie. Every time they say AI, and like the robots are coming over, and I think there's a thing where they're viewing, all the robots are standing, and one of the eyes like move, and it sort of creeps me out. So now hopefully you all have that image in your head. And then of course, there's Copy Insights that's also now available when it comes to creating your copy. And so with that, you're able to set up 10 custom brand personalities that are grounded with AI, and you're able to customize the output. So again, being able to see and match, with your brand and your tone of your organization, I think is really important. And then of course, it's another way to customize your marketing messages, but do it at scale in an efficient way, especially if, you don't have a copy team. Maybe you are the copywriter, or you just need to get something out, but you don't consider yourself a copywriter either. And then of course, also we have, oh, and it didn't pop over here, but we have the typeface generative AI content block that's now going to be available. This is a big one. Basically, right, you can create those images at scale. You can search through, I want to look for a credit card on a wooden platform with a beach background, and it'll surface a bunch of those images for you to choose. It allows you to stay true to your brand, really ensuring that you're able to reflect what your brand is all about, and make sure also it fits within those guidelines. But again, a way to not necessarily have to always rely on a designer to generate some of the images for you. With typeface, just was reading an article this morning on LinkedIn to be able to leverage that. There is it's available via the App Exchange. And right now there's a wait list. So if it's something that you might want to check out for your organization, feel free to do so. Can also send a link over of that LinkedIn post from our friend Munir, who is a marketing champion. I'm sure you'll see posts from him all the time. But again, just another cool thing that, okay, we saw this at Dreamforce, we saw this at Connections, and now it's going to be available for GA. So again, it's, I think, all about how to have AI help you do your job versus take over. Of course, you sometimes may write things better than the AI, but at least gets you some inspiration, and maybe you're able to stitch a couple different ideas together to maximize what you care about for your organization and your message. And then another thing related to personalization, which I think is huge, is the ability to have that real-time customer event stream. So in the past, there was some functionality of an event stream, but it wasn't as near real time is what I would say. And so now it's definitely a bit quicker. And why is this important? Well, in addition to personalization, being able to see from an email or web perspective, the affinities and the things they're looking for, of course, you can have that information flow into Sales or Service Cloud. Again, that's, I think, probably an untapped opportunity. A lot of time when people think about personalization, aka formerly known as Interaction Studio, they think through what it means to marketers, but also what does it look like cross cloud, I think is equally important. And so here, being able to ensure that your messages, the activities are all, up to date as best as possible, almost in near real time, is going to be really important, not only from a customer experience perspective and their journey, but also just to enable better conversations across sales and service. We all have probably been in a situation where you're repeating your same, customer service challenge issue through multiple people. It makes me think of Comcast. So hopefully, if they were to employ personalization and as part of being the ecosystem, maybe they could get some improvements there as well. And then when it comes to Google Analytics, that's always something I think for marketers that we're always thinking about GA4 in particular. And so now there are two releases that are now available, one being related to the marketplace apps for the relevant apps on the marketplace. Now GA4 standard and custom data streams are supported. That was something that wasn't. So hopefully that can help enhance your insights and your reporting. And then of course, when it also comes to analytics, there's now support for integration of GA4 with engagement. So Marketing Cloud engagement. And what that looks like is really the ability to bring in those audiences into data extensions to be able to use, whether it's in campaigns or as part of your entry source for a journey. It does require a GA audiences SKU. So we do want to be mindful of that. But if it's something you're interested in, you can definitely reach out to us at Sercante to help advise, or of course your Salesforce AE on what that looks like. All right, and just wrapping up here, of course, you may have been surprised that we hadn't talked about Data Cloud yet. Well, spoiler alert, we're now here. And so for that, Data Cloud was definitely something they talked about all at Dreamforce. And of course, it's throughout, I think all of the release notes, regardless if it's marketing, sales, or service, but really wanted to focus on Data Cloud specifically for marketing and what that means. I think for marketers with Data Cloud, right, one of the most powerful things is related to segmentation. So these are some of the new things that are available. One being around segment intelligence. So being able to really not only prove which segments are working, but also identify maybe segments that could be improved. And so leveraging some of the in-platform intelligence, leveraging some of their pre-built insights to be able to better segment, which at the end of the day is always a win for organizations. Also, again, you'll see here Einstein GPT is here again around segment creation. So you can really take your data and be able to put it into smarter segments powered by AI. Again, still you want to monitor it. You're going to know your audience better than ever. But again, being able to through Chat GPT, be able to say, I want to develop a segment of X, Y, and Z versus trying to figure out, okay, back in the day, if it was in just in engagement, okay, I need to figure out what tables I'm referencing, how am I linking them together, and it's probably going to require a SQL query. For a lot of marketers, you probably don't have that experience. And so being able to have this just be another method to get what you're looking for is going to be really key and critical. And then, of course, another thing that I think we all are probably familiar with is waterfall segmentation, especially if it's coming from maybe you do your segments in other tool sets. That's always something that's important. And so here being able to prioritize the membership of your segments is equally important. And again, it just provides another point of orchestration to be able to make sure not only right message, right time, right consumer or prospect, but also make sure that we're not oversaturating them or more importantly, maybe sometimes is undersaturating them. So those are just some of the highlights, I think, for Data Cloud and what's really, I think, exciting for marketers. I think net from an engagement perspective, really wanted to focus on some of the enhancements that are going to make our lives either more helpful, more efficient, and really, I think, if anything, just being able to do more things at scale, being able to have some of those more meaningful conversations. All right. And so as we're wrapping up here, we're going to go into announcements and then Q&A. So please feel free to use the chat, or of course you can come off mute when we get to the Q&A section if you want to ask your question live, but I know not everyone likes to probably chat and be on that microphone. So, of course, we are never done with events here at Sercante. And so if you haven't heard, Marge-Dreamin is right around the corner. If you don't know what the heck a Marge-Dreamin is, it's a community event. It's really focused on uniting marketers, as it says here, who use the Salesforce platform. It's 4 days of virtual learning, fun, and networking. And yes, I said it in that order: learning, fun, and then networking. Definitely we'll have some fun there. Thanks, Christina, for putting in that link there. But ultimately, it's an opportunity to go ahead and learn more. It's not just folks from Sercante that are going to be presenting. We've got 50 speakers throughout the week. Some of those folks, I think, are on today's call. So thank you for supporting us and joining. And if you feel particularly eager, you can join myself, Heather, and Aaron for a workshop day on October 31st. And again, you can just register at marjoryman.com. We hope to see many of you there. We feel like this is a no-brainer, especially for folks that maybe don't have the opportunity or the budget to be able to travel or even the bandwidth. So we hope to see you all in the near future. And then, of course, we've got some other Dreaming events based upon your geography that we hope to see you at. So we'll be Northeast Dreamin'. We'll be in Clearwater, Florida for Florida. And then, of course, nonprofit in Chicago. We will have some of our dragons there leading some sessions. And of course, always open to networking. So if you are in any of those geo areas or planning on attending, let us know. Feel free to use the chat now if you're headed there. So we can be on the lookout, or of course, don't be afraid to reach out to any of us on LinkedIn or email and let us know that you're going to be there so we can make sure to connect while in person. And then of course, Salesforce is never done with their events either. So we have the World Tour events coming up as well. Similarly, we will be at some of these. I think we're still firming up what locations and cities we are going to be visiting as well. So again, if you're able to join any of these, especially if maybe you didn't get a chance to go to Dreamforce or Connections this year, it's a great opportunity to just meet and greet, network, and then learn the latest and greatest on some of these things, not only with your peers but with Salesforce as a whole. So with that said, we've got a few minutes left. Would love to kick it over to do some Q&A. And we'll see what folks are chatting about. I see we have folks that are wishing they're going to Florida. Yeah, any questions? Anyone have a top high level, what do I want to say, release that they're most excited about?
Or maybe a new feature that they just heard of today that maybe they want to dig into a little bit more. That would also be good to know.
Okay, Flow plus GPT, definitely good.
Yeah, I saw, the our wait times. Yeah, I saw for Flow GPT, I did see a demo of it at Dreamforce, and it looks like it will be on record triggered screen flows or record triggered flows, I think, to start. That's what I'm seeing and hearing from at this point. And it will be probably a bit on the basic side initially, and providing the ability to provide where you actually prompts to have it create a flow, and then provide feedback after the fact. But I think that's just a starting point right now, in order to help both people learn flow, because that's sort of that's going to be the go-to automation going forward, and then also for hopefully get admins that know flow but have a lot to do, maybe to get things started. So I think it's going to pave the way for a lot more, but it'll be interesting, I think, when it does come out. What else are we seeing here? Our wait times.
See a question around what have you seen be the most effective method for educating team members on the newest features that are available to them from an enablement standpoint? Either of you want to weigh in?
I mean, for me, it's really getting into the nitty-gritty of what it is and how it works. So if you just tell someone you can copy assets between business units, they may know it's there, but they have no idea where to get started. So to actually show them, like, it's a flow and here's what it looks like and here's what it can copy and here's some considerations, and having those resources is the best way to get people to actually use the new tools.
I agree. I think anytime there's an opportunity to like provide the steps exactly how to get started, and also encourage where possible for people to actually play around with it, I think that's the best way to learn. In my opinion, that's the way I like to learn.
And a great question, I think, from Aaron around guidance and around permissions for account engagement admins struggling because system admins do not feel we should have access to flows. I feel like, Erin, you have a lot to probably offer on that one.
I do. Erin's always have, the best questions. So, yeah, that's going to continue to be an issue. I do see as more and more things happen with account engagement, and we're seeing more and more advanced features like the flows, like Einstein for account engagement, all of that. It's increasing the need for Pardot account engagement admins to also be a Salesforce admin. I can't exactly tell you how to convince your system admins. I know it's a struggle. One thing I have seen is getting your Salesforce admin certification, and some trailhead badges around security and permissions and sandboxes, change sets, all those core things that are going to make your system admins feel more secure around, what you can do in production, what needs to be done in a sandbox, what to touch, what not to touch. Those are things that can really help your system admins feel a little bit more confident in sharing access. Another thing you can do is, I'm writing blog posts on all of these advanced features on the spot, showing your system admins those features and what they can do. And what they won't have to do for you if they give you access is another great way to convince them to give you system admin access.
And maybe also sometimes I think showing them like what your intentions are and where they might be able to control things, that it's not necessarily always an on and off switch. For sure. All right. Looking to see. Yeah, the wait steps are definitely a huge thing. I think, for some of our clients, this is going to be good, but potentially scary. I think speaking about some of our the engagement side, right? Thinking through the AI for even in typeface and the imagery for some of our clients, I think their creative teams may panic a little bit to the idea that, other people besides them have control. So I think similar to the question that Erin asked about admins and getting control would be, how do we leverage these things without creatives freaking out and having that sense of control? And I think it's, talking through it, showing the features, showing them like what's in and out of bounds, how can we protect the brand, things like that. I think, that goes back to probably some of the basics of just change management in general and user adoption, and just, hey, it's a crawl, walk, run. It's going to be safe. And it does take some time, which for folks like me that maybe they say, patience is a virtue I do not have. It can be a little frustrating because you want to go ahead and use all the new things now. But I think, if you do take the time and really think through how you potentially could get some of these things rolled out within your organization, having a plan to do that is probably a lot more effective than just trying to go guns blazing or bull in a china shop, which is sometimes my approach to getting user adoption. Yeah, I think time-based permission sets is also a really interesting one. Any thoughts on that, Heather?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something that could be an option. I like also, Jason, your suggestion about being a sysadmin in a sandbox to sort of, play around and build the concept that may have in mind. And then that way you have something that you can bring to your Salesforce admin and have conversation about, just to show them that you what you're doing and you are following standards and best practices. What I will say, I also saw the question from Nick on partial sysadmin access, and this kind of ties into the time-based permissions. So for things like being able to manage flows and some of those like big sysadmin, those are big permissions. So it's like one permission right now that gives you basically the keys to everything. And Salesforce admins, I think, are, tend to be a little bit cautious about giving that out to everybody. And so one of the things that one of the things that I have seen and heard, I don't think I've seen it as far as when this is going to happen, but that they are looking at breaking out those big super permissions into more granular permissions, so that if somebody needs to be able to create and manage flows, but doesn't need to create, set up, like build Apex classes or, set up other types of configuration and setup, they have that granular access so that they have the access that they need. But I think that will be on, or that I believe it is on the roadmap. I just don't have a timeline as far as when, but is something that's been talked about, breaking those out. There was something else I was going to say. Oh, another thing that I think was mentioned as well, that they're looking into, is the ability to manage flows and store them in folders. So which I can see the next iteration to that also being able to set up access to flows within folders. I mean, that's my speculation. I haven't seen or heard anything being said about that, but they have said they're looking into organizing flows in folders, and I think that could be a next iteration. So we'll see what happens there.
Thank you so much. Any other, oh, of course, I lost my chat. Any other high level things? Oh, the mysteries I would solve. Yes. Just reading out loud in case anyone else can't read. No. Well, again, I think like we've all been saying, there's a lot to unpack here. It's definitely a marathon, not a sprint. So it'll be interesting just to see how all these things are going and, to check back in future releases and think, how far we've come. I think, some of these are definitely a little bit more groundbreaking than in other previous releases where you can like delete a data extension and put it in a recycle bin, which is still important. But these ones I feel like are a little bit more substantial and get folks' creative juices flowing. So yeah, if that's all, we'll just again say thank you again for attending, for your engagement and your awesome questions. You can feel free to learn more about Sercante if you want at sercante.com. You also can go ahead and, message myself, Heather, Aaron, or any of the dragons. We're always eager to talk shop and we'll give you our honest opinion. And don't forget, Mardreamin is a great learning opportunity that we'd love to see you all at, whether for the workshops and the entire conference or just one or the other. So with that said, thank you again so much for your time, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.